I'm Ellis Martin, and this is Money Talk Radio. Join me now for a conversation with Terry Lynch, CEO of Power Nickel, which trades on the TSX Venture Exchange under the symbol PNPN, and in the U.S. on the OTC as PNPNF. Power Nickel is a Canadian junior exploration company focusing on developing the high-grade Nisk project into Canada's first carbon-neutral nickel mine. The Nisk project is located in Quebec Province and is benefited by generous tax credits that cover 50% of exploration costs. A Hydro-Quebec substation across the road supplying low-carbon, inexpensive hydropower, a stable political environment with strong government and First Nation partners. It's located besides a major highway and nearby town, and there is shallow mineral depth. The Nisk property comprises a significant land position with numerous high-grade intercepts. Power Nickel is focused on expanding the historical high-grade nickel-copper PGE mineralization with a series of drill programs designed to test the initial Nisk discovery zone and to explore the land package for adjacent potential nickel deposits. I'm visiting now with Mr. Lynch at the Energy Transition Metals Summit in Washington, D.C. Terry, welcome to the program. It's great to visit with you here in Washington, D.C. at the Energy Transition Metals Summit. Good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you, Ellis.
You've had some exciting news lately with Power Nickel. I don't know where to begin. Let's talk about the Nisk project in Quebec.
Yeah, so Nisk is just a little bit south and east of James Bay. It's literally right off the road, route north, about 8 kilometers outside the town of Nemaska. And it's a polymetallic deposit, so high-grade copper, nickel, PGMs, and gold, silver. It started out as a nickel sulfide project, and now it's morphed into something more.
I want to chat about copper. The name of your company is Power Nickel, but you had an 8% discovery just recently, didn't you?
Yeah, 14.4 meters of 8.17%. Doesn't get much better than that, and lots of other add-ons that almost doubled it. Pretty spectacular, and we said that was one of our top 5 holes, implying that there's at least another 4 of those babies coming.
4 copper babies or 4 polymetallic babies? Or?
Yeah, what's interesting, it's been a bit of a mix. We've had some heavy gold numbers, and we've had some heavy PGM numbers, but generally the copper has been about 50% of the value of these high-grade holes, and released 4 of them now, and I guess the worst was like over 1 ounce PGMs with a 1.5% copper. That's a bad hole over 8 meters. That's amazing, right? We've got a really thick chute, and at this point, the core of it's about 100 meters wide with a halo of about 50 to 75 meters on either side. They tell me in the Abitibi and the Archean belt, if your width is X, expect to go at least 8 to 10 times that in depth. So we're open at depth now, and that's what we're pursuing. We're now down for a goose break, which is about a month when the ground conditions are too soft, but then we'll be back in there into May, early June, and we'll be drilling up a storm this summer.
How much do you expect to drill for the rest of the year?
This summer we'll drill 8,000 meters, and the fall probably looking to double that, so it could be as much as 25,000 meters.
You should have constant results throughout the year then.
Yeah, over the next 6 weeks we'll have several results out, and then we'll be pretty much back in the sequence again of drilling and constant results going forward in the rest of the year.
The name of your company is Power Nickel, and that's how it began, and nickel is certainly very needed no matter what the battery chemistry is going to be during the next 10, 20, 30, 50 years. We don't see nickel going away. Having said that, what do you do with a big copper resource like that potentially?
Basically, obviously, we think it's part of a polymetallic complex now. So that's our whole understanding of the geology, is transitioning from a nickel sulfide sort of basis to, yes, it's a nickel sulfide basis, but it's actually one of those rare nickel sulfides that's morphed into a polymetallic possibly deposit. So the biggest mines in the world, like Norilsk and the one in Plata Reef in South Africa, are polymetallic and the most valuable. We think that because we've discovered this heavy copper, PGM, gold, silver zone over top of the nickel sulfides, that it's probably connected, and that we're pursuing to that avenue of approach.
There's a variety of ways this discussion can go with regard to nickel, and I've been covering nickel for quite some time. You hear stories about dirty nickel. I know you have an answer for this with Indonesia and China, even North America. There's not a lot of significant production in North America, but your answer to that has a lot to do with the province of Quebec, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure. We're lucky in Quebec. We've obviously got, in our case, Hydro-Quebec is literally across the road from us, substation. So we're going to have clean, green energy to power our nickel processes. Also, it's an ultramafic deposit, so ultramafic rock naturally sequesters CO2. So there's that. And I don't know if you recall, CVMR is doing a feasibility study on Nisk right now, and they're an accomplished nickel refiner, among other things, but they've got 18 plants around the world, building another 3 right now for several $1 billion. And they're doing the feasibility study on Nisk. Their big output is nickel powders, nickel wires, anodes, and stuff like that. They get between $60,000 to $80,000 a ton for nickel powders, which are used directly in the batteries, whereas LME nickel is, I don't know, 18,000 or so. In the nickel business, you want to have that exposure to the refined products if you can. It's never been there for the small guys, but it's there for us.
Are they the type of of company that could look at you as part of a vertical integration strategy?
Yeah, very definitely. I think the process we're stepping along right now is to look at it as a JV, that they would put up the capital stack, or together we collectively put up the capital stack to build it. They would have the expertise to mine and develop it, and we'd go forward in that. That would probably be the most rewarding move for our shareholders at this moment in time.
I imagine you've signed some sort of NDA, so I can't get into particulars with them, but I'm sure curious as to timeline with regard to that, and as a potential shareholder, now might be a good time to take a look at Power Nickel, considering what I just heard.
You know what? There's never been a better time to look at Power Nickel. Obviously, we've doubled in the last month or so that's good, but we were in a sideways trend there for almost 3 years. We did our first financing at Nisk at 25 cents. 3 years later, we made it to 40. Like, whoopee, right? It's progress, but given what we've done, what we've accomplished, posting a full 43-101 with over 7 million tons of 1.13% nickel, and then this important new discovery of a very super rich copper PGM gold silver zone. This is exciting stuff. The stock should go, in my mind, a lot higher.
Did you know that you were going to have this copper discovery?
No. We knew we had the discovery hole, which was almost 1 ounce PGMs and 1.5% copper and a nice chunk of gold. So we were expecting more of that. Having it go so heavily into copper, then to get the silver credits in there as well, that was a bit of a surprise. Ellis, you've been around this business long enough to know better to be lucky than good. I'm not claiming any great genius here. We did the right things, obviously we drilled it, because credit to our geos at surface who saw this ultramafic expression at surface, and we had some drilling meterage left in the year. It was literally the last hole of the year, and they said, hey, do you want to drill this? I'm saying 200 meters left. Oh, what the hell? Give it a shot. And bango. So 60 meters, we hit this prize. And then, of course, we had to wait because it was marshy area. We had to wait. And so we didn't get into it until January, but we've drilled 16 holes in it since January. 15 of the 16 hit. So it's just a honeypot, and it's a jewelry box. So we're pinching ourselves, but we'll just keep on pinching ourselves and keep on drilling.
Certainly the market's positively responded to all the activity that you've had. There's been a great deal of trading.
Yeah, we've definitely waking up some of the bigger investors, and we certainly had some phone calls from the usual suspects and some of the biggest and brightest guys in the business. We've got some significant shareholders now and expect to add more in the future.
And you're cashed out?
Cashed up, yeah. And we've got our warrants are well in the money now, so those are coming in. So we'll probably add a $10 million worth of warrants cash in the next little bit. And yeah, so we're in good shape cash-wise.
What do you think we're going to be talking about in a couple of weeks, Terry?
We'll probably talk about more assays from Nisk, and then shortly thereafter we'll be talking about the first feasibility reports that'll be coming. With that one, what we're expecting is that in our metallurgical report that we had done for our 43-101, our recovery rates are around 70%. And with the CVMR process, we're expecting to kick that up to around 90%. So that'll be a pretty significant step forward for us, and will really help advance the economics of the project. So we're pretty stoked about that. I think that'll be coming down the pipe really soon.
Terry, this is a tough business with jurisdictions doing what they do around the world. You never know what the politicians are going to inject into the foray here. You've lucked out with selecting Quebec. You've been in the business a very long time. You've done your best to avoid risk. You feel very safe in Quebec, don't you?
Quebec, for me, in critical minerals, there's no better jurisdiction in the world. You've got infrastructure. In our case, you got drive off the road. We're 8 kilometers from an airport and a small village that's got hotels and accommodations. They've been very progressive with the First Nations. Often that's a big issue, community risk. And James Bay Cree are probably the most business-oriented of all the First Nations, and the Quebec government's done a great job of interfacing with them and making them true partners in the process. And then finally, the fiscal terms in Quebec are unparalleled, right? You basically have 2-for-1 exploration. So for every dollar I raise, I get an extra dollar for exploration. There's a process to it. We've done it several times. We're one of the leaders in that space. I've done tons of financing at 50 cents when the stock was 25. I've done financing at 90 cents when the stock was 25. That's obviously great for our shareholders. And the cool thing is that's not just for exploration, it's also for development. So when we get to the development stage, let's say this project costs us $400 million, $200 million of that is going to come via tax credits from the federal and provincial governments. So think about that. That's basically the equity you need to kickstart these projects. So Quebec is unbelievable.
Congratulations on all your hard work and luck, evidently.
We'll keep on working hard and keep on praying for the luck.
Appreciate chatting with you today at the Energy Transition Metals Summit in Washington, D.C. Thanks, Terry.
Cheers now. Thanks.
I've been speaking with Terry Lynch, CEO of Power Nickel, which trades on the TSX Venture Exchange under the symbol PNPN and in the U.S. on the OTC as PNPNF. Get the complete story by going to powernickel.com. Subscribe to Money Talk Radio and the Ellis Martin Report. It's free. Go to ellismartin.com.